All right. You know what it is? You know who it is. We're back. Episode 10 of the Fight Cast. Just a quick little rewind here. I messed up. I didn't post some episodes and I sent the wrong episodes, and we had a little bit of a mix up on the actual anchor. So if you guys are confused, like we just were, everything's going to be fixed. I'm going to rename the episodes, and we're going to have all the episodes up there by the end of tonight. Tonight while we're filming this, and then this will be uploaded tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. So everything will be up there, and you guys will get all the episodes. You can listen into order. So just wanted to start off with that in case you guys were confused, because we were just looking and I realized that I kind of messed up the episodes. But everything's going to be fixed, I promise. And we're going to go from there. So it'll be good. So, weekend. It's a good weekend. There was a lot of good fights. There was the fight cast was 5 for 5. Just add into that win tally. If we if betting is legal in Tennessee, so I might have to start partaking in it if we keep this trend up. But we did well. It was another good weekend. We had Canelo, we had Triple G, we had Stephen Thompson, we had Jose Aldo, Michael Pereira. It was a really good night overall and a good weekend. Triple G fought on Friday. So we're going to go over those quick, and then me and Jake have a little bit of a special episode planned. So each of us picked a fight of significance from. I picked a fight from UFC, and he picked a boxing match, and we're going to break those down. These are historical boxing matches. The rules were both guys had to be retired in the match that it was in, and we're going to break down the significance and kind of break down of the fight and kind of what we saw, and then go from there. We've got some really cool stuff planned. We're going to dive into that. But first, over the weekend, let's start with UFC. As I said, 5 for 5. We picked all 5 fights right. The 3 UFC fights, I personally picked right. Stephen Thompson outclassed Jeff Neal. He got cut early on, but other than that, he put on like a very, very good stand-up performance. And I know that most of those guys aren't great punchers, but Stephen Thompson is a dude who has like this weird, funky, like karate style type of game where he just like throws punches, but from like all different angles, and he kicks really well and he
Is
moves
that
really well.
is that his background karate? I thought it was like American kickboxing.
I think it might be. I think he's got like some background of karate, but he throws a lot of kicks. He throws a lot of sharp. Uh, he's very sharp with his punches. He doesn't really like knock people out, but like he hits people enough, and he just outclassed Jeff Neal, because Jeff Neal was more of like a brute. He's just like a knockout guy. And, he just literally outpaced him, outmoved him. He was just landing his shots better, and Jeff Neal couldn't hit him. And a lot of people had Jeff Neal as like a favorite in this fight, because Thompson's had some close calls and he lost to a couple people, but he's just a really good overall fighter, and he proved his worth again. And I forgot who he called out exactly, but whoever he called out is like a big step, and it's going to be a good challenge overall. He stepped up and he did really well, and like it was impressive. Like he won all 5 rounds clearly. Like it wasn't a debate. He really just outclassed strikes, movement, just the pace of the fight. Like I said, when you watch the fight, it was one of those things you saw every single round. It was like, all right, he clearly won that. He clearly won that. Then it was a conversation of like, Jeff Neal's got to knock him out. Jeff Neal's got to knock him out, and then he didn't. So next fight was Aldo versus Vera. This was a fight I knew Aldo was going to win. I don't like Vera. I don't hate Vera. I don't like Vera. He fought Sean O'Malley. I don't know if you're familiar with who that is, Jake, but
Yeah,
he's like a dollar store McGregor, people call him. Like he's a wannabe. He's a good fighter, but
I've
um,
seen him fight. He's got some skill.
yeah, he's definitely a very good fighter, but he's just his attitude's kind of like, you know, not there. And he lost to Vera his last fight. It was a fluke. He hurt his foot and he couldn't go on, and then he got dropped, and then Vera got on top of him and just ended the fight. But there was really nothing O'Malley could do, because he had like nerve damage in his foot, or he broke it. I don't know exactly what ended up happening there. Vera took flack because people were like, "You didn't actually win," like O'Malley just got hurt, and then he got mad and was like, "I won, like I beat him, like fair and square. I'd do it again." So this was kind of the fight for Vera to step up, and it was a hard fight because it was against Aldo, and Aldo is, you know, people look at Aldo as like a nobody because of what happened against Connor, but they forget that Aldo was literally a champion for and unbeaten for 11 years. He was
Wasn't
unbeaten.
like considered to like in that he was in that GOAT talk before he lost him.
And like 11 years, he was unbeaten. And then
Yeah.
he lost on one punch to Connor, which was just, and I think if I didn't pick the fight that I picked tonight for that, and we didn't have the rules, I would have picked that McGregor fight just for the simple fact that that fight was like so significant in so many ways for the UFC. Because like Aldo was almost the pinnacle, he was the peak. And then as soon as that happened, it was like McGregor mania. Like Connor just went, he flew, and then he just took off. And Aldo kind of like dropped, but Aldo's a very good fighter. He's elite in a lot of ways. He's a little bit older now, but like he's still Jose Aldo, and he beat Vera fair and square. Vera, again, he was. I don't think he would have won totally against O'Malley. Like I think he would have had his moments because he's good, but again, Aldo's just too good for him, and has too much in his bag to lose to a guy like Vera. And then the third fight was Pereira versus Chaos Williams. And again, Pereira is just one of those dudes. He's fun to watch. He's up and coming. And he's got a lot of moves. He's got a lot of movement. And I just think he's, in the UFC, it's starting to show and it's starting to form where moving and having these little moves, like you don't see guys who are just like straight up, like Connor's one of the only people, and like Francis Ngannou and like people like that who kind of just stand in front of you and like throw the shots. But even Connor's not like that as much anymore. You see these guys who just have like these awkward throws and these awkward punches. And like, if you watch a guy like Dominic Cruz, you would cringe if you watched a guy like Dominic Cruz. I don't know if you ever have.
I've seen him.
Dominic Cruz throws punches like this, and he's like running at you with his head down, and like, but it seems like these awkward styles seem to be doing well. And it's like this movement where it's creating movement and hitting punches from these like obscure areas and just creating obscure movements that people aren't used to. And like, but Pereira is a really good fighter overall. He's what?
That's how you win fights.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if I'm going to try to trademark this, but my thing is change speed, change levels, and change angles. That's how you win fights.
Yeah.
What you're talking about right there, it does, whether it's MMA or boxing or whatever, man, like even wrestling, changing angles, right? Positioning. Like that's how you win in wrestling. You got to change angles up. You can't just can't bull straightforward attitude. You can't win fights like that. Yeah. Maybe sometimes you can, but you're going to get to a level where you got to do these other things. Yeah.
No, it's true. And like you see these guys who are coming through and they're continuously creating like I said, it's cool to see because like, Connor was kind of a guy who introduced movement as like a thing into the UFC, but then there's always been like, like I said, Dominic Cruz has been one of those dudes. Pereira, Anthony Pettis was a cool one, who were just like hitting these weird, Tony Ferguson, like they're all dudes.
That blonde hair kid too, the lightweight,
what's the blonde hair?
Yeah, man. I'm having a brain fart. The kid he sparred Lomachenko, and like they made a big deal of. Oh man, what is his name, man? I'm having a brain fart. Blonde hair kid. He's a lightweight. Yes, yeah. TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah. He hasn't been fight. He's supposed to fight soon, and I'm excited to see him because he's supposed to come back and just basically be like put into the mix because he was a top fighter until he took steroids and he got suspended. And like him and Cody Garbrandt go after it. I like Cody Garbrandt. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's just like a fighter. But yeah, so like these guys who create movement and are like these obscure styles are starting to like show, and they're doing well. And like Michael Pereira is one of those guys, and he won, and he just won. Chaos Williams, I saw him fight last time, and he did all right. He wasn't anything special, so I didn't see any way in which he was going to win. And Michael Pereira is kind of like up and coming. So again, 3 for 3 on the UFC. Then we got Canelo and Triple G, just goats, absolute goats within their sport. Canelo, we'll talk about Triple G first. Triple G fought, I forgot the guy's name again, but Russian dude or a Polish dude, and he just pieced him up. That was it.
Yeah, Triple G looked. Uh, he he looked better than I've seen him look in some years, but he boxed better than I've ever seen him box,
Yeah.
which is crazy because he's about to be 39 years old. But the head movement that he like Triple G's always been that like machine, like
Yeah.
one of those Eastern European machines who just he'll eat punches and just keep coming at you with those his powerful punches. But he was moving his head. He was again creating angles, throwing some nice shots that he doesn't really he's not known for. Like some up jabs and things like that. So he looked really, really, really good. I know that dude wasn't anything special, but Triple G looked fantastic.
Oh yeah, I saw the head movement. I saw that. I think I texted you. I think I
Yeah.
texted you something about that. But like he was looking like top class fighter. Just like I mean he is, but like he was just looking even better. And at
Yeah.
39, you see that, and the conversations came back up about Canelo and whether I don't know. From what I'm seeing, Canelo's like not interested in fighting him again, which I wouldn't either because he already almost kind of lost to him and then beat him. And then like why would you want to fight him again? But
Well, he said after if Triple G's got one of the belts, he's like, I'll fight him. He's like,
I don't think Canelo would say no. I'm just saying, like, if he had to choose, I doubt he'd want to fight him again. But Triple G is just, he destroyed him. If you watch the fight, it was just you were after like the second round, you were almost just like waiting to see like when or how he was going to finish him. Not really like anything else besides that. It was kind of the same thing as Joshua when he was fighting Pulov. It was like you knew it was coming. It was just like how was it going to happen, not like, and it was how and when, not if it was going to happen.
yeah.
And then Canelo put on a fucking show, dude. Like he just is head and heels above every single fighter, easily pound for pound, like best fighter in the world. He went against a guy who was almost a foot taller than him, and his face after the fight looked like he was fighting a dude. He was messed up.
Yeah, it's as far as pound for pound best goes, it's either him or Crawford. I mean, Lomachenko is still on my list.
Yeah.
Top 5. But the thing that separates Canelo from everyone else is just his tool set. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of guys who have the athleticism and the talent, the physical skills and shit like that. But bro, this guy just does things like he doesn't have a pattern. Yeah. And I think this is one of the things that he picked up from Mayweather when he fought him, because he's gotten better every single fight since he lost to Mayweather. And he's done different things. He's added something to his toolbox every single fucking fight. Yeah. And you see him do things, man. One of the things that he does that not a lot of other guys do, something that I love, like I teach like my clients this, like even if they're beginners. I actually did it in one of my videos about how to feint like a pro. You can use your eyes to feint. So it's not just feinting a punch, which Canelo was doing too, but he feints with his eyes. So what he'll do is he'll land a bunch of body shots, and that's what he's known for, is those mean fucking body shots. Yeah, which, by the way, if there's a textbook that tells you how to fucking land a body shot, it looks exactly like Canelo does it. Like that's perfect body work. You never see this dude throw something light to the body. This is something I tell all my clients too. You go to the body hard every time. But he does this, he gets his body work in, and he does this thing where he stalks in, he gets close, and he stares at the body. And you can see the opponent looking at his eyes, right? And then he'll lean down while he's looking at the body, and the opponent has no choice but to lower their guard a little bit, and then he'll come up top with a hook. Yeah. It's just beautiful work, man. He was out there like changing up speeds. Like he would, this great combination that he used a handful of times during the fight where he just flicked a jab, like not even a powerful jab, just flicked his hand up.
Oh yeah, the fake he did, the fake where he went like this.
Yeah, like that was great. He feinted out with the 2 and then came up with that uppercut. But bro, he feinted, he would flick that jab up to the head and then came right down the pipe, right to the belly button with a 2. Beautiful combination, just beautiful work. Like it's a work of art. And the people that do it like that, like him and Loma and Mayweather's, and you go back and watch Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard, guys that box the way that you're supposed to box, which is touch a dude up and get the fuck out of there. Like boxing is get in, do your damage, get the fuck out of there before you get hit.
Yeah.
And Canelo does it like nobody else, man. It's a fucking beautiful thing to watch.
And that's the thing, is like seeing him is like you see him pull that. He does the get in and get out, but like if he needs to, he sits there and he can bang with he can bang with the best one. And like
because his defense on the inside is almost perfect.
His head movement's insane too.
Yeah.
Like he moves, he can take shots, he can give them. Like that's the other thing too, is like with guys like that, you oftentimes see like, the people who can move move for a reason because they can't take a shot. But Canelo, like he can move and like he can still take those shots, and then like he can fucking dish them out like nobody else. He throws bombs, absolute bombs every time he throws a punch.
And the way he uses his high guard too, like he doesn't use the high guard as a form of like straightforward defense.
Yeah.
Like he'll use the high guard to bait a guy in to throw something up top just so he can counter off of it.
Yeah.
Because what he does, he'll have his guard up, dudes will throw a shot, he'll either do that Mexican chin roll, move his head, and then come with the counter back in. So basically he's moving, like, which is great. From the opening bell, everyone's like, oh, how's he going to deal with the size of Callum Smith? From the opening bell, all he did, he put on that high guard and stalked him to move forward the entire fucking fight.
Yeah.
Right? And it wasn't like he was in there hiding behind the high guard and taking these hits. It was all to bait Smith to throw shots so he could counter. He's fucking brilliant. He is.
I think going into a fight like that, I think it's pretty common knowledge for a dude like that. You're going to want to hit the body and make him almost like come down to you, which is what he did. You saw as the fight went on, Smith was here, and then he 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 just started getting destroyed. And you saw it. Nose, eye, face. He was like at the end of the fight because his guard was just dropping because every time he was high, I mean, Canelo was 8 inches lower, just body. Then he's got to come down. And as his head and hands drop, it's just like, hi, fight's over.
and the thing is, like I said it when we gave our predictions that, Callum Smith is a one-dimensional fighter.
Yeah.
Right. He's got that high guard. He stays behind his jab. He's got that counter or check hook. And a lot of British fighters have this problem. They don't move their fucking heads. And when you got a guy like Canelo who just has so much in his toolbox, if you're not going to move your head, like, what do you think? He ain't going to find a way in between? You know what I mean? You're not moving your head. He's going to find a way in the guard. You got to move your head, man. Yeah. You can't, like, this old school shit of just keeping your guard up and eating punches. Something I like, again, you go to my videos. I tell you, your eyeballs should be the first line of defense because your eyes are faster than anyone's hands, right? You see the shot coming, first line of defense, slip, roll, get out of there. It takes a lot less energy than eating a full-on power shot with your hand that goes into your head. You're absorbing the entire shot. Yep. That you can't last a whole fight with someone of Canelo's at his level with that stupid bullshit 400-year-old defense. Like, you can't do that. You got to move your head, man. Yeah. And that's why he stood no chance.
And even, go ahead.
No, that's it. Just
there's a point towards the end of the fight. I don't know if you saw this too, but I think it was like the 11th round and the 10th round. They were like joking back and forth because I think Smith was trying to hit him with something and Canelo just saw it coming and like, it was just like,
the check hook. He caught Canelo's shot here, came back with that, and Canelo did his. I think it was one of the times where he did his little chin roll because he knew it was coming.
Yeah,
and then, they were both smiling at each other. And
Smith was like, "Oh, that was one last shot."
That was your chance, bro.
But
that's all he had. That's all he was. He's just too one-dimensional, but he's tough as shit, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of other people would have stayed alive because they were. I mean, he was getting drilled, dude. And like you saw it, like Canelo I was watching the fight with somebody who isn't fight experienced. Like they never watched fights. And they're like, wow, that guy's face is destroyed and his face has nothing on it. I was like, that's just
I
that's
know
just
Canelo looked like he just got out of the shower after
yeah.
that.
No, literally it looked like he took a hot shower. His skin was
Yeah,
red. No,
yeah, man.
but yeah, just clear as day. He's right now the guy to beat. They're talking next fight for him. Whoever, I mean, he said whoever has the belt, he wants to fight.
Yeah.
You know,
Which may be Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant's got a fight coming up. Which yeah, since last week, we've had 4 fights added on January 30th, which
okay.
is tremendous. One of them is Caleb Plant defending his super middleweight title.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, his gym's here. Did I tell you that?
Caleb Plant?
Yeah, it's Music City Boxing in Nashville. That's where he started.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was thinking about trying to go there. I was gonna probably go there either when I got back from going back home, but his
check it out.
yeah.
Caleb Plant is good. That guy's he's got some skills, but again, there's being skilled. There's championship level, and then there's all-time level.
Yeah.
And Canelo's at that all-time level, and there's no one else in that division at that level right now. So
the scary thing is
Caleb Plant, I think it would make for an exciting fight because Caleb Plant's got a really exciting style. He moves his head a lot, and he throws some bombs. He's got really fast hands, so it's exciting to watch. But he doesn't got it.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against Caleb Plant. He's awesome, but nobody does. What are you going to do? Canelo's at he's at a god level. Everyone else is just, hey man, can I get some money too? That's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah. And like I said, if you watch a guy like Canelo, it's just clear as day, even if you're not a boxing fan or you never watched a fight in your life, the example I just gave, you see he's clearly just better than everybody. So that's it. And whoever he fights next, whether it be Caleb Plant, I know they were talking about Errol Spence. I don't know if they were saying.
I don't know why Errol Spence would do that because the dude that's in his division, he ain't even at his level. Terrence Crawford.
So I saw them also got into it. I guess Terrence Crawford said he's not looking for that anymore because Errol Spence said he wants 70-30 split. And Terrence Crawford's like, yeah, fuck that. I'm not doing that. He was like, until that changes, I'm not doing that. So
I know Crawford's that shit is all dumb.
Yeah.
I mean that's dumb.
So whatever happens there. I hope Crawford and Spence fight. I mean, I hope Spence doesn't fight Canelo because I really think he'll die if he fights.
There's no way that fight is happening.
Yeah.
This guy, he's gonna go up 13 pounds to fight Canelo. Like, no way.
Yeah, I don't know. They asked, well, what is he? He's 155, right?
Who, Spence? 147. He's welterweight.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They asked Canelo if he could still make. Yeah. They asked Canelo if he could still make 155, and I think he said yes. So. Yeah. But I don't know. So whatever. I mean, whatever fight Canelo has next on there, it doesn't matter. You could fight a tree. I would watch it. All right. Cool. So getting into this cool little thing, there is no fights coming up until January. Ryan Garcia is going to be the next fight, I believe, right?
Yes, next week.
So Ryan Garcia, January 2nd, I believe, is his fight. Luke Campbell, we'll go over that the weekend after. And then we got a cool load of UFC coming up. Like beginning of the year, there's some really good fights. And then there's a fight week that Dana White just announced. There's going to be 3 fights in the week. I think it's going to be Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So Sunday, I think, is going to be Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar main event. And then Hamzat Chimaev and Leon Edwards, which I'm really excited for, which is going to be on like a Wednesday. And then it's finishing off with my boy Connor fighting P-Head Poirier. He's going to mush him again. And I can't wait, but I'm excited to talk about that stuff. The new year is going to bring a lot of good fights, and we're gonna predict all of them, and we're gonna hit our 95+% rate and go from there. But so the rest of this episode, what we did, we picked a fight each. I picked a UFC fight. Jake picked a boxing match, and what we did here is we're gonna break it down. We have significance, just a breakdown of the fight overall, why we chose the fight, things like that. What the only thing we had in terms of like a rule was that the guys had to be retired. So we couldn't pick any, like Pacquiao and Floyd was a huge fight, but Pacquiao's still fighting. Conor versus Khabib was a huge fight, but Conor's still fighting. There's, the fight had to be two people who were retired, significance in the sport, or a fight that we just felt really good about picking. I picked one that was pretty significant, and Jake picked one that was pretty significant and controversial as well. So yeah, I'll go first. So my fight that I picked was UFC 94. Now this was George St. Pierre versus BJ Penn. This was the second fight that they had. The second fight of two, or the second fight, the first one ended in a St. Pierre win, and it was, controversial as to whether it was St. Pierre. And this was this was at the beginning of the UFC. Right now they're at, just to give you reference, they're about to be on UFC 257, I believe. So UFC 94, just to give you an idea there, that was X amount of years ago. They usually have about 6 main events a year, or 6 UFC events per year. So I think this was 2009, I believe the fight was. Because this was a long time ago. And the reason I say that is because I'm going to bring up some stuff in the significance. But 2009 UFC was still like developing. It wasn't what you see today. And a lot of it was because of George St. Pierre. A lot of it was because of these guys who are coming up like BJ Penn, like George St. Pierre, that kind of transformed the sport and created the hype around it and to where it's been today. So this fight was significant because it was the first time that champions faced each other. So Pierre and Penn fought the first time and then went their separate ways for a little bit. Both became champions within their weight classes, and then they came back and fought each other. Or I think Pierre left for a little bit and then came back, but BJ Penn was the champion of the division, and then St. Pierre came back while he was still like former champion. So this was the first time two champions faced each other within a division. And this was kind of the first time anybody ever attempted like the champ type thing. Now, this was a good fight in the making, and the first fight was good. And this was also St. Pierre's 4th title defense overall. And again, this was all new stuff because there wasn't guys who were doing this in the UFC, and there wasn't people who were, good enough to hold the belts for this long. And a guy like St. Pierre came in at the time when he was really dominating the sport in a lot of ways, because he was, ahead of the game in grappling, striking, movement. And he was just, he looked like a muscle turtle when he was, back then. He was just bigger than everybody else. So, he made his 4th title defense, and GSP won the fight. He went on to get a TKO. He won in the 4th round. But from that fight on, I think BJ Penn had a chance, and a lot of people liked his odds, but I think a lot of people also knew that GSP was very much better than him, and a lot of them predicted the fight to go how it went, which was really GSP was just like bigger than him. He was more athletic than him. He was just faster, stronger, and he just really wore him down the entire fight. Right from the beginning, he was winning on the feet. He was winning on the ground. He was too strong for him on the ground. And BJ Penn, he was a very good fighter, but I saw some stuff about him recently. I guess he got knocked out in a street fight, like not too long ago, like dropped, and he was like egging the guy on, and he was like, "Yeah, come on, come hit me." And they got dropped by some like drunk dude. So that was pretty embarrassing. But it gives you an idea of how he is on his hands or on his feet. But anyway, so GSP was really just bigger, stronger, faster. And the first couple rounds, he was winning on the feet, and he even got him down, and he was basically dominating him against the cage, driving his shoulder into him, really just kind of dictating the action. He brought him to the ground. He just controlled him basically the whole fight. And then the 3rd and 4th round was when GSP really started to like tire Penn out, and he saw that athleticism really start to kick in, and he just really started picking him apart. And then he, it's just, this is the quintessential MMA style is you take him out, you tire him out, you get him on the feet, and then if you can go for that takedown, they went for the takedown, and he just crushed him, ground and pound all day, elbows, punches to the ground, just crushed him. And the corner actually threw in the fight for BJ Penn and stopped it because he was just getting brutalized and embarrassed. And this was one of those fights where GSP really kind of like he solidified himself here. Like he really took a step in the direction of being like considered a GOAT, considered, you know, stepping forward within the UFC and kind of like developing it to kind of become a superstar, because they had a lot of stars, but they didn't really have like a superstar. And that's where the UFC has benefited a lot over the last couple of years is having those superstars that really drive the sport, and it drove it. Like Conor, people probably hate Conor, but having a dude like Conor is crucial to grow your sport. And having a dude like GSP early on, who, GSP is a class act, really. He's a good dude. He's a quiet dude. Like if you ever see his Instagram, he's not like this flashy dude. And he was like a really good guy to kind of be the face of the sport early on. And he was just an all around great mixed martial artist. He was good on the ground. He was good on his feet. And BJ Penn, he just didn't have what it takes. And I think that you see this often in UFC. I don't think you see it as much in boxing, and I'm gonna say why, because I think boxing translates well over time, and I really think that the skill. Obviously, I don't think that like an older fighter could be a current fighter because of skill and whatnot. Like there's different skill levels, but like it's clear as day that like an older UFC fighter would not stand a chance against a current one because of this. There's so much different skill involved with like grappling has been, increased in skill and capacity. Striking is like people are learning from professionals like boxers. They're learning how to kick from Muay Thai. Like they're developing all these different specialties and bringing it into the sport now. And they're becoming so well-rounded that those guys were, a lot of the early guys in UFC were specialists. So you'd see like a jiu-jitsu specialist step in against like a striker, or you'd see like a Muay Thai guy step in against like some type of wrestler. And it was like these specialties where now these dudes are just like, they're doing it all. Like they're jiu-jitsu black belts and they're Muay Thai specialists, or they're kickboxing specialists, like Izzy, for example, whether his most recent purple belt promotion is worthy, he is a world champion kickboxer who is good at grappling. You're going to have a hard time fighting someone like that now.
Yeah.
And GSP was kind of that guy who you could have the argument bridge the gap. Whereas like he was one of the first ones to like fill everything and have like everything as a fighter. And it was clear as day on this night. But he kind of, like I said, he solidified himself as like a legend in the sport. He defended his title. And he was the best UFC pound for pound fighter at that time. And really, the thing that came of this for me is like, this is when people really started talking about GSP as like the GOAT of MMA. And whether I agree with that or not, I guess is a different story. But I really think that this fight solidified it. And if you watch it, this is one of those fights, if you watch, you could see the difference in skill. Because you could go back, and I almost picked a Ronda Rousey fight. The reason I stayed away from Rousey, because I saw these two as very similar. Rousey, I believe, was a good fighter, but I think she was in a time before women's MMA was fully developed. And she was just way better. So like her competition wasn't anywhere near who she faced and lost to. Because Amanda Nunes is a savage. And like I hope she gets a chance to fight Jake Paul. Because she would kill him. And Holly Holm and these girls now they're becoming like Ronda is the current form of what GSP was. She was stepping into a bunch of specialties and people who weren't developed yet, and really was ahead of her game in terms of being there. And GSP in this fight, you saw it. And like I said, he kind of took himself and put himself as the GOAT in MMA. And then now is that conversation, is he not? That could definitely be had, the conversation. I don't think he is personally. But yeah, Jake, any opinions on what you saw?
Wait, first, who do you think is the GOAT in MMA?
I have a hard time. If John Jones wasn't on steroids, I would 100% say him, because he's definitely the best overall fighter. Him.
Yeah, but you know what? Steroids in fighting is not like steroids in like baseball or football. Like it's not.
Yeah,
like,
I get that. The only thing
the thing with fighting is you can if you have any knowledge of fighting whatsoever, and you have functioning eyeballs, you can see who the most skilled guys are.
Well, and like I said, if
And
I'm
that would be
honest,
for me. The best guy I had ever seen. Well, first it was Anderson Silva, then it was John Jones.
yeah, Anderson Silva, I think I think he's up there, but I think John Jones is like he's just so much better than everybody. And like his striking is good, his kicking is good, his grappling is good, his ground and pound is good, his defense is good.
Like Canelo, so much in the toolbox. He uses so many different tools.
And he's just so precise, and like he's got like that spinning elbow, and he's got like these weird kicks and he's just stronger and bigger. You know, I lean towards him. I it's hard for me to lean against Khabib, but I don't like Khabib because I don't think he's
dimensional though. Like how you know what I mean? Like yeah, he is undeniably
he's undefeated. So it's like hard to say, yeah, no, he's not.
But he only does one thing.
Yeah, and he just does it so well that it's like it's hard to go against it. You know, I still I personally still think Connor's up there. I do. I know he lost, and like he's kind of one dimensional, but he's the GOAT in a way. Like he's been there in a way that like he's literally none of these guys would do what he's done and put themselves on the line like he has. Like he in 3 years he went from 145 to 170 as a fighter, and like yeah, he lost to Nate Diaz, but you know he was 170 in 2 weeks and was supposed to fight at 155, and then took the fight because Diaz wouldn't come down to 155. And he was gassed and he lost. And Diaz is not a fighter that like is a bum, you know, he's not. And like, to me, the way that Connor's put himself out there, not a lot of people would. So like, I like Connor's style overall. I think there's a couple people coming up that have a chance. Like, I think I'm really excited about Izzy fighting John Jones because I think he could really be someone who like could step into like a GOAT role if he really develops his ground game and he becomes because he's just a different animal too. Like his striking. I don't know if you've ever watched him.
Like I've seen him fight. If he were to beat John Jones, I mean that's taking quite a step up.
Yeah, and like if you see, you know, Izzy's one of those dudes who's just right now he's in his bag. He's got his thing. He's a kickboxer who just and this is the thing. It's like before in UFC, it was like you had to have a ground game. Like you had to be able to wrestle. It was becoming that because Khabib, there was guys like, you know, Poirier, there was, you know, black belts coming. There's a lot of black belts in the game and you needed it. But like Izzy is beating black belts on his feet and like, as he's got takedown defense and he can kick and punch you from a lot of different ways. And he shows you, he switches stances, he changes levels, he's fast. So like, you know, it's starting to show like these guys who are elite strikers are taking out these jiu-jitsu artists, like these guys, because, you know, and if you have good enough defense, if you can't get taken down, it's like, and if you can't get close enough,
you can't take people down when you're fucking asleep on the mat.
That's what I mean. It's like, and it's showing, and like, I like, Izzy's got the style, he's got the length, he's got the skill on top of that like, you know, Paulo Costa, like he had a bad game plan going in, but he dominated this guy. He's a black belt and he was supposed to be like a mauler and couldn't even get close to Izzy. Couldn't even step within his range. And like, he's about to go up to 205. And this is going to be the thing. It's like, if Izzy goes up to 205, his next fight's going to really tell you like what's going to happen with his career. And I know this is a little bit off tangent from what I just talked about, but like, it's important to kind of go over this because it's part of the conversation is whether GSP is the GOAT or not. If Izzy goes up to 205, puts an ass whooping like I think he's going to on Blachowicz, because Blachowicz isn't, you know, he's a good fighter, but I don't think Dominic Reyes. I actually said Dominic Reyes was going to lose that fight. We weren't doing this yet, but I picked Blachowicz because I didn't like. I saw the videos they do on YouTube beforehand, and he was acting like he was a champion. Because he lost to John Jones, but he said he won, and he was acting like he was a champion. I was like, this dude's going to get hurt. I was like, I really think he's going to lose this fight. And I was sitting there with my friend. I was like, I'm picking Blachowicz, and then he got kicked in the first round, and then he got fucking wobbled, and that was it. The fight was over. But I don't think Blachowicz is good. And I think Izzy's going to pick him apart, and then it's just going to set up John Jones versus Izzy. And And I think that's really I think that fight for now is gonna be like true pound for pound GOAT for now. And then there's always gonna be someone better and someone who's more efficient. But like right now, I'd say John Jones until Izzy steps up. I would personally put Connor in the top 5 just because I think for what he's done as an athlete and like just his style and like what he's put himself through, like, whether he lost to Mayweather, he still somehow got into a ring with Mayweather. He's fought at all these weight classes. He's got the fight against Aldo. Like, just and that's the thing. It's like that's why that Aldo fight was so significant, because he showed you what mental games could do to somebody. Like, he won that fight 2 months earlier, and he just knew it that night, and then knocked him out with one punch. But yeah, so we got a little off track there, but
well, I agree. Obviously, I don't know. I don't watch nearly.
Yeah. So, and this is Jake doesn't really.
I think John Jones, just based off what I know about fighting.
Yeah.
Because before that, I did think GSP was up there, and some of it he showed in that fight against Penn. His ability to throw a competent punch, because after I think it was around like the end of the second or the third round, he started keeping Penn off with his jab.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really good looking jab. I mean, other than that, it was a bunch of fucking, driving a dude into the fucking cage and holding his leg and like all that shit that I don't give a fuck about, because it's you're not inflicting pain on anyone by like, it's so stupid. But I did have a problem with both of those guys. Like, every time they threw a right hand, first of all, GSP was flat-footed. I never noticed this about him because he's so like agile, and he's like, really quick on his feet. He had always been quick on his feet. And pretty good movement, although like everyone else in MMA doesn't move laterally, just front and back for some reason. It'll bother me like forever. But he was flat-footed, so like he was both of them were throwing the right hands with like everything they had, and their feet were staying flat, like they weren't turning on their toes.
He had a really wide base a lot of the time, and like a lot of people in the like Connor does that. Like, a lot of people when it's because like even Connor
turns on his toe though. He turns on the two. So when he throws his left hand, he's turning on it.
Yeah.
And again, Connor comes from, he started out in boxing, so that's probably why he does that. But like, that bothers the shit out of me, because I mean, again, you guys are at a professional level. Boxing is part of mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
Fucking get it right, man.
Well, that's what I think, and that's what what I was saying. It's like, for me, I think it's going to start to be clear. The people who throw the best punches are going to start to take over. And Izzy is part of that. Connor is part of that. And I think, a guy like Khabib can and would be beaten by someone who is elite on their feet. Like, if you shrunk down Izzy and put and like Connor is Izzy at the weight class, really. He's got every skill that Izzy has. I think that a dude like Khabib really on his best night loses to a guy like Connor, because especially in like in a non, I don't know, but like a non-sanctioned like fight. If there was like a street fight, I'd rather have Connor's skill set than Khabib's skill set.
Listen, again, if you have functioning eyeballs, I think if you look at the skills, it's clear. It's like, yeah, once Khabib gets you in his grip, it's pretty much over. But there's so much damage to be done on the way in. It's just no one has fucking taken advantage of it.
Yeah, because they're so worried about it. Yeah.
He's always been there to be hit, and guys just don't do it. They see him coming.
And again, in the UFC, there was a couple times when Khabib was on Connor, and Connor hit him with like knees to the head, but you can't throw knees to the head on the ground. Whereas like in a regular fight, that would be open all day. You get hit with a couple knees in the head on the ground, and you're not holding on for much longer. You know what I mean? And like I like Khabib, I like his style, but like for me, it's just I don't I don't know. I don't think he's the GOAT.
It's fundamental. Like that's what it is. I mean, let's call it what it is. He only does
punches are fucking hideous. So like,
but so going back to the Penn GSP fight, I saw, you know, what you saw, just GSP fucking mauled him. I mean, it was boring as shit. I mean, even when he had him on the ground, like I saw so many openings. Like, why aren't you punching him here? Why aren't you punching here? And I understand it's because it's different training, it's a different mindset. You have different, like, you have a different set of goals. You get a guy in the ground, you're trying to do things, so his mind is working differently. It's like, oh, I need to position myself to do this instead of like, dude, he's fucking wide open, and he's got his forearm in Penn's chest. And Penn's like got his arm out like this, trying to grab his other arm, and he gets his arm out of it and then goes to pin his arm to move again. It's like, bro, get his arm away and fucking win. You know, so I saw what you saw. He mauled him. Terrible punching other than GSP's. He did have a beautiful jab that really, I think that started the downfall of BJ in that fight.
Yeah.
When he was able, like, every time like BJ came in and tried to like throw his right, GSP would hit him fucking upstairs, downstairs with a really stiff jab. And I think it was in the third round, he fucking busted his mouth open with one of those jabs. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah,
Good jab.
that was
wrestling on the ground nonsense.
And it was just ground and pound. That was it. And like, you know, like I said, the significance of that fight was that was the first time two champions were facing off. And it was GSP really settling himself within kind of the GOAT status, or being like that top pound for pound fighter within the world at that time. But that's my fight, UFC 94. If you want to check it out, it's on YouTube. Just type in UFC 94. It was Pierre versus Penn 2.
I watched the Spanish version.
Yeah, it's Pele Gratis or something like that. I don't know why they don't have like the English version.
I didn't have to listen to Joe Rogan's dumbass like, get excited over nothing. I mean, like,
I like Joe Rogan as a commentator.
He grabs his leg, he's like, oh, he's got him now. He's gonna fucking kill him. Like, relax, Joe. You're relaxed.
That's funny. Him and DC, I like the combo. All right, so Jake's fight. We got. I'll let you go. I'll let you take it. Go ahead.
So I picked Pernell Whitaker and Oscar De La Hoya. I really didn't. I mean, it was a significant fight because it was, you know, I think it was Oscar's first fight at welterweight, moving up from 140.
From the research I did, they called it it was deemed the pound for pound fight. Like, it was supposed to be like the.
Well, I mean, Roy Jones was at the top of the game at the time.
I don't know. That's just the research I did, but go ahead.
I mean, someone was just fucking talking out of their ass, bro. Roy Jones was like at his peak in 97. Fucking pound for pound. Yeah, come on, man. Speaking of that, and Roy Jones was one of the commentators at the fight.
Okay.
But yeah, so I didn't pick it for any significance other than like what I wanted. I wanted to break down a fight between two really good boxers, technical boxers, but with completely different styles. And now Whitaker he's one of the best defensive boxers in history. I mean, you know, right up there with, you know, Armstrong and that Mayweather, right up there with those guys defensively. And De La Hoya is a classical Mexican boxer, come straight forward, 1, 2, 3, and that 3 is always coming fucking really hard. Which De La Hoya is one of the best left hooks in the history of boxing. So that's really why I picked it. And it was a pretty exciting fight. Sweet Pea tried to make it. So Whitaker was 33 and De La Hoya was 24. So at the time, Sweet Pea was the champ. He had been the champ for a long time. He only had one loss at the time, which wasn't actually a loss. It was controversial. It was some bullshit. And De La Hoya was up and coming. Like everyone knew, like, oh, De La Hoya is going to be a star. And Whitaker tried to get in De La Hoya's head. He was doing some old pro shit, you know, like wrestling with him, digging his head into him, leading with his head. He tackled him a couple times. I mean, he was stepping on his feet. He was uh you know, he was like talking to people at ringside, just everything he could do to try to get into De La Hoya's head. And I think part of that was because he knew what type of ability De La Hoya had, and Oscar showed it. You know, there's always that old saying, you know, the way that you beat a southpaw if you're orthodox is to throw the two. You use the right straight down the pipe. That's your best shot, and it it worked for Oscar. I mean, he to perfection. I mean, he landed that thing crisp, clean, many times throughout the fight. Um, Switched to southpaw a couple times. He had a little bit of success. He ended up getting knocked down. I mean, it was a bullshit knockdown, but still technically the right decision because he got caught with a shot. But he switched to southpaw and he stepped inside Whitaker's stance and his back foot ended up getting caught on Pernell Whitaker's front foot, and so he was sliding at the same time that Whitaker landed a shot, and it was a little like pity pat shot, but his glove touched the ground, so he got it was a knockdown. Um, but overall, it was a really like there. It was a great fight because of all the dirty shit that Whitaker tried to do, and it was great. It was fun to watch, but still, they had these pockets that were absolutely brilliant technically from both guys. You know what I mean? That's why it was such a good fight. It was a really close fight. De La Hoya got the decision, which I agree with. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was. It was. Some people think it was controversial. I, I think it was a fair because it wasn't like the scores blew him out. I think he, two of the judges.
I think it was one had a draw. Let me see here.
Yeah, yeah, I think one had a draw. The the other two had him winning by 2 points, like 116, 140, something like that. Like it was not that big of a disparity.
Let's see. It says we need a Jamie. Hey Jamie, pull up
Yeah.
that's for the Rogan podcast. Oh yeah, so De La Hoya was awarded the bout by unanimous decision. Two of the scores being 116 to 110 and 115 to 111. That's why, because I thought it was a draw, but it was like hugely in De La Hoya's favor, and a lot of people did.
Oh yeah, I don't remember that. So when I just rewatched the fight, I didn't um, watch watch the end to where they came. I don't remember it being.
So that's what I so
that's yeah. I don't agree with that. I mean, 116.
That's what I was saying. I was gonna say when I saw it, I agree that De La Hoya won. I don't know that it was that much, and I thought Pernell and Whitaker. I saw it more as like split. Like I thought Pernell and Whitaker like did really. I tried to watch that fight without seeing the results because I didn't know who won that fight. So I watched it without seeing the results, and then I did all this research on the back end when I was done. And I thought Whitaker had at least I thought because you see fights now and people are like, oh, this guy went. They're like, what the fuck were you watching? Like at least that was like Whitaker looked sharp, he looked good, and like he was doing that stuff, and like he did knock down De La Hoya, whether it was or not, they ruled it a knockdown. I thought that it was a lot closer, and like I think that's where people saw the controversy in the decision was it was so heavily favored by De La Hoya, and like a lot of people were like, "Whoa, like Whitaker could have won that fight," you know?
Yeah, again, it comes down to the judges and what they're looking for. I mean, like I thought De La Hoya won, like some of the close rounds. I gave to De La Hoya because he was pushing the action. You know what I mean? So I mean, there were, I mean, I would say like 4 or 5 rounds that were pretty even, like dead even.
Yeah.
that I gave to De La Hoya because he was pushing forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like this was the stats I saw after too, which I just pulled up again. Um, I think Whitaker outpunched De La Hoya and landed 232 punches, and De La Hoya only landed 191. And then he landed 160 jabs, and De La Hoya only landed 45. So
But it was
that was,
power punches that like De La Hoya outlanded him a lot.
yep. And then that was kind of again like the lone knockdown of the fight was Whitaker, and that's where they kind of were like, hey, like we saw this, but then everyone was like huge favor of De La Hoya. But I thought Whitaker, I've
It
always
was
seen
a lot
him.
closer than that. It was a lot closer than those guys. I don't remember it fucking being like that. It's crazy. I mean,
Um,
and I watched the fight, 23 years ago. So
yeah. Whitaker, I've seen him fight a couple times, but like it's always cool, and I appreciate boxing more as a sport because it's so much more. It's specialized. Obviously, it's just punching, and I appreciate watching because it's like such skilled people at like that high level of punching that like you see the best of the best, and like you see that with De La Hoya, and you saw that with Whitaker, and these guys are just like two people who are just they throw their punches perfect. They play defense. They set up the jabs. It's kind of like we were talking with Canelo. Like when you see guys like Canelo fight, there was like a bunch of Canelos like back in the day that were like stars. Whereas now I don't know what the difference is because I don't, and this is what I was going to get to when I was talking about that earlier is like when I see guys like Whitaker and De La Hoya and like you fast forward to now, it's like I still see those guys putting up like fights today. Like if they were in their primes, maybe I'm wrong, but like they're so good that it's almost like how would they fare against like
I totally agree. But I mean, but again, we're talking De La Hoya and Whitaker are all-time greats.
but that's what I mean is like even like to me though the with you and like UFC's was in its infancy, but like the all and this is what I was saying is like the all-time greats of UFC 10 years ago would get fucking demolished in today's game. And I think that and I'm not saying this as a knock against boxing. I'm saying this as like a positive is that like these fights back in the day were so high level that like you can still watch them today and appreciate them. Whereas like UFC, you watch UFC back in the day. I didn't even like UFC back in the day because it was just like, I don't know, it was sloppy to me. It was kind of like, oh, like, I've grown into it because
It's boxing is polished. It's a finished, polished product. And UFC is like this jumble of like things like some shit is exciting, some shit looks like garbage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to your point, guys are becoming more polished in more areas, which is making the guys back in the day look worse.
Yeah.
They weren't as good at all around. You know what I mean?
And I think like to me, it's like, and like I said, I don't know because I don't know if my point is making sense coming out, but like, I appreciate watching older boxing because like you can still take stuff from that. You can still take you can watch a Cornell Whitaker, Oscar De La Hoya, and you can be like, wow, that is fucking legit. You can watch that stuff back in the day for UFC, but to me, it's just like, oh, that was cool for its time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
No, I know what you mean. But again, man, like, I say this all the time. Like, one of the reasons, like, when we go back to like these stupid celebrity exhibitions and shit, and new fans coming into boxing, like, boxing is not hurting. Boxing doesn't need anyone. Boxing has been around since the dawn of man, and there's a reason why at this point, professional fighters look so polished. Yet you could go back to the 40s and be like, those guys could compete with champions of these days because they were so polished, because it's been around for so fucking long. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, obviously, like certain things like that Mayweather's form of defense is like this thing was developed in the past 30 years. You know what I mean? So yeah, there are some new things that come up, and obviously, like when it comes to strength and conditioning, there are new things that we learn. So there's like that aspect, but the science of it, right? What fighting is, what boxing is, hasn't changed all that much in centuries.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why you can say that. But it's different in MMA because there's so many different variables that now, to your point, I think people are starting to realize like, oh, it's not good enough that I'm just good at this one thing and I'm trash at these other things.
Yeah.
I mean, so guys, you know, like Izzy and fucking John Jones, these guys they have like that are so well rounded, would fucking destroy the guys that were.
And this is the other thing, though, is what I'm bringing it back to as well, is like it's becoming more and more clear the better you are on your feet, the better, like, you just stand a better chance because the fight starts on your feet. No matter what you're in, unless you're in jiu-jitsu, like the fight starts on your feet always. And to me, it's becoming more and more clear. If you have Canelo's skill set with blue belt capabilities and defense, you're going to win 90% of your fights.
Yeah, I mean, because what it comes down to is like look, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the Khabib Conor fight.
Yeah.
And how it takes a lot more work for someone who's good at grappling and does their work on the ground like that to get to a finish than it does for a guy who knows how to hit.
Yeah.
If you can punch or kick efficiently, it's fucking lights out. If you're Khabib, you have to do work to get to the point where you're ready to snap someone's arm or put them to sleep. You know what I mean? So there's a longer road to that. More things can happen to get out of it, whereas a punch or a kick can just fucking put you to sleep.
Yeah.
If you're good at it.
Or put you out of fucking commission. That's all I know. I've been taking kicks the last couple of days and they're light. And my legs are like, that doesn't feel nice. I can't imagine getting fucking pelted by like someone who's actually trying to hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a more efficient form of attack. You know what I mean? It just is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it's like you know, the quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line. You know, that's if I'm throwing a fucking straight right, it's so much more efficient than you trying to get in on me and take me down and do all this other shit. It's just more efficient.
Yeah. Well, and the thing was for me, like I saw, obviously you want the other skills as well. Like you want to have those skills in terms of like an overall fighter. I used to, when I started jiu-jitsu, I was like, why wouldn't, like, I would want to be really good at this. Like, obviously. But like, as I've started to do, I've always been into boxing, but like, and this is just from my experience as like an average person who does it. You're on one end of the spectrum where you're a former boxer and like, now you're a boxing coach where you have that, you've been in fights, you've been around people who are professionals and like, you've been in that atmosphere and you have that experience. My experience is more about like dabbling in that stuff as well. But like, I've seen the people who are really good. And like, this is like, I appreciate your perspective because I remember when we first started talking about like fighting stuff, you were heavy on like that like a punching style is better. And I was like, I don't know, because like jiu-jitsu is pretty hard. Like, and I was in like a specific jiu-jitsu setting. Like I was just people who were doing jiu-jitsu. There was no kicking or punching involved. And now as I've gotten more involved with the kicking and the punching, especially the kicking, it's like, whew, dude, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know that, like, I mean, jiu-jitsu is important. Don't get me wrong. Like, and like, if you even know a little bit on the ground, you're going to be better than most people. But like that kicking and punching, if you know how to move and to your point, if you know how to throw a punch efficiently and a kick effectively, like, it's just
think about some of these Muay Thai guys, like when they're in that Muay Thai clinch, like they get you there and they're throwing those knees on the inside. Fuck, your jiu-jitsu means garbage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're taking a fucking knee. Like, what are you gonna do? Go down to shoot in on a guy to go and catch a fucking to the face? Your whole face is smashed in.
Yeah.
Even like those guys throw the knees like to the inside of your thigh or throw the knees to the ribs.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, and at that point, you're in where you want to be as a jiu-jitsu guy, right? You're in there ready to clinch. But now you have to deal with this other thing this guy's an expert at, throwing those knees and those quick elbows on the inside.
Wow.
you know, again, like it's just more efficient, man. Just
Yep.
more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting stuff. That's all I gotta say about it right now. It's I love it. That's why I continue to talk about it. We're gonna have to do this. Well, next week we got the Ryan Garcia fight, but we'll figure something out for next week. But yeah, let us know how you guys like the fights that we predict or that we went over today. As for our predictions, we're still crushing it over here. We're getting 95+% of our fights right. We're not planning on changing that. So continue to listen in. Let us know if you have any predictions for the upcoming year, any fights that you guys are excited about, any fighters you're excited about. We're always interested in kind of hearing about that and seeing, watching new people. Yeah, and then for us, we'll be back next week. Again, this is episode 10. I fixed everything. By this point, I will have fixed everything, and I'll have all the episodes up. If you guys have any questions, please reach out, or any comments, let us know. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Those Vidania.